GM responds. Hey, what's going on? It's Drew from Original Motor Car, and I'm here to talk to you about some follow-up information that we got on a video that we put out last week on this ad that is in the back of the current issue of Car and Driver magazine. Make some noise, Pontiac is back. If you haven't seen that video, definitely go and check it out. We'll put a link somewhere in the video window. We'll put it in the video description. Certainly a lot of stuff to cover in this video as a follow-up, but again, just kind of the quick recap of that last video is when we discovered this ad. We talked a little bit about the reasons why GM originally killed Pontiac back in 2008, 2009. Last model's coming out in 2010. GM had to kind of cut some fat and get rid of some brands that they felt were redundant and not earning their own way. So you fast forward 15 years to now, GM is actually moving their whole lineup toward SUVs, crossovers. I think that makes a lot of sense for the daily commuter, the person that just wants to get back and forth to work, maybe take their kids back and forth to soccer practice. But there's a whole segment of automotive enthusiasts out there that they're kind of ignoring. People want something that they can get out on the roads and connect with the road and enjoy, at least some people. And we have seen that Ford is committing to a future where they're not going to drop the V8 in the Mustang. Dodge with their new Charger program, where they're going to have a 2-door and a 4-door variant. They'll have a gas version and an electric version. They realize that there's a huge segment out there that wants something fun, something sporty, something attainable that they can get out, connect with the road in, and enjoy the drive. I think that's in GM's heritage, and for them to kind of ignore that, I think, just seems out of character. So that seems to add a lot of validity to what we see as possibly this being a testing of the waters from GM. But before we get into the responses that we got from GM and from Car and Driver, I just want to read a couple of the comments that we actually got to the last video. I mean, we have gotten thousands of comments. There is a lot of heightened attention and interest in this topic. And I am certainly glad to see that. I'm glad to see that people are interested in potentially Pontiac coming back. So I'm just going to read a few comments. These just sort of exemplify some of the common threads of comment we've seen. One person wrote, "I hate SUVs, I hate crossovers, I hate freaking EVs. Give me a sleeper sedan that'll slap you into the back of the seat, a 2-seater roadster, a coupe, bring it, Pontiac." So that's interesting. I mean, we've seen these comments over and over. Whether you hate SUVs, hate crossovers, or hate EVs, I think people still want fun, sporty cars. I personally don't hate any of them. I like crossovers. I like SUVs. I even like EVs. I think there is a place for an EV in our current climate. We talked a little bit about that in the last video too. I think for the person who wants something that's affordable, and I mean big picture affordable, to get back and forth to work in, for that commuter vehicle, EV is great. I do think that actually does make a lot of sense to have GM planning for that in their lineup. But whether that is the only offering that they have, they seem to be driving toward this all-electric future. I think maybe they're starting to realize that maybe they're going a little quickly here and they need to kind of back up and recognize that not all consumers actually like that path. And they're probably going to lose a lot of consumers if they move too quickly toward that all-EV future. So that's a great comment. I think it sums up the way a lot of people feel. Next comment, they say it's a fake ad to manage expectations while they send out feelers for the public response to a Pontiac comeback in the form of a hybrid. That's actually kind of how I feel. I really do genuinely feel that this ad is probably put out there just to kind of gauge feedback, test the waters, see what people are thinking. It's very possible that they could be planning this as a hybrid. The language that it uses in the ad, I just want to read this. It does mention a hybrid. It says, our first model is a hybrid. Surprised? Well, it uses a battery and an electric motor to start a 667 horsepower supercharged 372 cubic inch V8. So the mention that that's a hybrid, I think, is a bit of a joke. It's basically saying it uses a battery and an electric motor to start the engine. That's what all gas-powered engines do. They use a battery and a starter to start the engine. So technically, yeah, I mean, you could say that's a hybrid because there's a battery there, right? I mean, that drives all the electronics and it starts the engine. I think that's what they're saying here. I think basically they're pointing toward that in a fun way to say, this is going to be what you know as an internal combustion, amazing, awesome, full of power V8. It's certainly going to be, it's going to have all the modern performance, fuel injection, advanced valve timing, all the things you would expect in a modern, amazing, high horsepower V8 engine. And I think that's kind of what they're teasing here, is that yes, General Motors in general, I think, is going to be moving toward hybrids and EVs, but I think they're realizing that there is a place within their lineup for something that's a little bit more of a traditional V8 for the automotive enthusiast that really wants to get out on the weekend and connect with the road and feel the rumble of the engine and really enjoy that driving experience. Last comment here is, this was another sort of common sentiment that we saw throughout the comment thread. I know GM has Corvette, but the C8 is a supercar. With no Camaro, the Firebird would be a great way for GM to not let Ford and Dodge take all the muscle car attention in sales. Let's go, bring back the bird. So again, I totally agree. The Corvette, certainly a performance-oriented car, but it's a $60,000+ two-seater sports car. That's not attainable, for one, in terms of price for the average driving consumer. It's not very functional in terms of a family sports car. The great thing about the Camaro was it was a 2+2. It was a two-seater with two seats in the back. Basically the four-seat sports car. So that's what people want. That's what the weekend driving enthusiast wants. They want something that they can put their kids or their grandkids in the back seat of. They can put some groceries in the back. They can easily fit golf clubs in. I know technically you can fit golf clubs into a Corvette, but they want something though that they can still go out, feel the rumble of the engine, know that they've got plenty of power at the pedal, and connect with the road. So that's what this ad is claiming that they're developing. And that's what the comments are saying that generally people want. So with all that feedback so far that we're getting, I hope GM is listening. I hope that they are watching the comments, and I hope they're watching the conversation to see that across not just our video, but all the other comments online, that generally seems to be the general sentiment we're hearing. So let's talk a little bit about the responses that we got out of General Motors. So we did send a request to someone that we know in the communications department. We did get a response back. It thanked us for reaching out to inquire. It said that there are lots of amazing things that are happening at GM, but it didn't say one thing one way or the other about this ad. Essentially, the response was no comment, which I find very interesting. What that basically tells me is stay tuned to see what happens. We're not going to make an official comment on this right now. I think it would be very easy for them to say, nope, that's not us. Now, I have heard that some people actually did reach out to people at GM, and they did hear that this is not associated with General Motors. And it's possible that if this is a secret program within GM, there are probably a lot of people that don't even know about it. They don't even know if this would be officially sanctioned by GM. It's hard for me to believe that it's not, because again, it uses the Firebird logo. It, talks about Pontiac. There is a disclaimer saying that it's a fake ad. I think the fake ad, though, just like our secondary comment that we read here, they're saying it's a fake ad to manage expectations because they're still figuring out what is the offering, what is it that they're bringing. Car and Driver, we haven't gotten anything back from. I'm not surprised, because this being a full-page back ad on Car and Driver magazine, this is one of the most expensive pieces of real estate in this whole magazine. Certainly, the back cover is probably the most expensive, but one page back from that is probably second most, if not equal in price, because when you pick up a magazine, the first thing you do is you kind of thumb through. You might look at the first page. You may hit a few pages in between. You're going to see that last page as you go to close the magazine. So anything that hits on that last page is going to be pretty pricey, especially if it's a full page ad. And it's not really in Car and Driver's best interest to talk about who is actually paying for or not paying for ad space. in their magazine. That kind of leads me to another point of interest that we have heard. I believe General Motors is trying to figure out what are they going to put into this spot in their lineup. They know that they have a hole right there for the automotive enthusiast that really wants to go out and connect with the road. There are rumblings, that there is something secretly being tested, wind tunnel tested at GM right now. It's a car platform, but people don't really know a lot about it. And again, this is all hearsay. I do want to say that this is rumor, but the rumor mill I've heard from multiple sources is that there is something secret that's being tested within GM, wind tunnel tested. Wind tunnel testing, I mean, sure, that could be toward, making any car in their lineup more aerodynamically efficient, but it certainly seems like if they're coming out with some kind of sports car that they really want to compete in that segment, wind tunnel testing is going to be pretty important. Also, one other bit of circumstantial evidence that we kind of have to look at here is that Camaro's going away. They made the last Camaros for this year. The Camaro platform is no more. There are no more new Camaros, at least for the foreseeable future, rolling off the line. So GM is losing what they have in their lineup for NASCAR. They do not have a car to race in NASCAR anymore. Some people have pointed at the Malibu and said, well, the Malibu is still in GM's lineup. And it's true, it is, or at least it was, because GM just within the last few weeks has come out and definitively said we are canceling the Malibu platform. There will not be another Malibu, again, at least in the foreseeable future. So you take those two offerings off the table, the only thing that's left in a car platform is the CT line of cars in the Cadillac brand. Now, Cadillac, they do have racing history, racing heritage. Cadillac has raced cars in Le Mans. They've developed and raced cars in the FIA GT3 series. But usually those are in sort of the more international racing competitions, something that's aimed at the more affluent race fan that's going to drive a nicer car themselves. Someone that's really into F1 or again Le Mans, something that's gonna really attract that higher end buyer. NASCAR has always been aimed at the average Joe that can go out and buy what they see racing, around the oval on the weekend. They can go out and buy it the next week in the showroom. So without Camaro and without Malibu, I don't know what GM's going to do. It doesn't seem like Cadillac really fits the NASCAR brand. Again, I can see it for FIA. Can't really see it for NASCAR. So I'm sure they're developing something. Now, some other responses that we've gotten from General Motors, these are not official responses. Our official response was a non-response, kind of a no comment. That's interesting. I think that means that there could be something in the works here. One of the other comments that we got from somebody that we know within GM that basically there's sort of a common feeling within GM that it's not out of question that an iconic brand or an iconic model could easily make a comeback. Now, that could just be people saying, it could happen, anything could happen. But there could also be some information that's kind of slipping out that maybe there is an iconic brand or an iconic model that is slated to be brought back. And this person was citing the Hummer. The Hummer came back out under GMC. So they're saying, if it happened with Hummer, it could happen with something else. Totally not out of the ordinary, totally possible. So that's an interesting response. Again, this is not really an official line from GM, but there's certainly whisperings within GM that, citing the Hummer, it could happen at any point, that something that's classic that maybe has been put on the shelf could be brought back out. So Pontiac or Firebird or Grand Prix, Grand Am, I don't know. But certainly if you look at this ad, it looks like Firebird is the thing that is definitely driving the excitement here and probably is realistically the strongest contender for something that could come back out and make a comeback. So the other interesting piece that we have on in our research, and this is not really anything that's revolutionary, but you do have to kind of put two and two together. Pontiac was started in 1926. It's almost 2026. So in another year and a half, Pontiac is actually coming up on their 100th anniversary. So that's kind of an interesting fact that, there's whisperings maybe some teasing that Pontiac's coming back just to test the waters. Pontiac's coming up on their 100th anniversary in 2026. I don't know what that means. Maybe, if you connect all these dots, if you look at the fact that, GM is going to have to put something, at least I would think that they're going to want to put something in NASCAR. There's rumors that they're secretly wind tunnel testing something. They are coming up on 100 years of Pontiac, and they've already proven that they will bring back a legacy brand that's been discontinued if they think that it fills a segment and that it makes sense in their lineup. If you look at the fact that Dodge with the Charger platform and Ford with the Mustang platform, which they are betting heavily on, is going to continue into the foreseeable future, and GM should have an answer to that. All signs, I think, still point toward this being highly likely that this is something that GM is putting out to test the waters with. So, it's possible that it could go either way. We're just trying to bring the best information that we have to you guys on whether this is a real ad or not. And again, I think we need to continue to talk about this. I think we need to continue to make some noise like the ad says. Because if we don't, I don't think it's going to happen. Even if this was an ad put out by GM, it's basically saying, hey, talk about it. If you want it back, talk about it. Let's make it happen. I think we should continue to share these videos. I think we need to continue to talk about them, leave comments, not only on the videos, but on other automotive blogs. Share these videos with friends, share the articles with friends. I'm going to keep talking about it as we find more information. We'll probably do another video where we read through some more of the comments because we've gotten literally thousands of comments on this topic. There are a lot of people that are really interested in seeing Pontiac come back. There's a lot of interesting comments on what people think Pontiac should come back with. Some people say, yeah, make it electric because electrics can eat an ICE engine's lunch when it comes to performance and power. Other people are saying, I do not want an EV. I just want a traditional gas burning engine. I want a V8. I think that's healthy debate. I think that it's really good to get that conversation going and keep it going, because whether Pontiac comes back or not, those are things that we should talk about because it'll inform what is in our driving future. I sure hope this is real. I think if we talk about it enough and we get that conversation going, the fire is stoked. Let's keep it going. Let's share these videos. And let's tell GM that we do want Pontiac back. I think it's a very real possibility, and I think the more we talk about this, more likely it is to happen. So if you have any more comments, put them in this video. Take a look at the other video we did. Take a look at all the other information online. And definitely let us know. Send us an email to hello@originalmotorcar if you know anything, if you hear anything, and we'll do a video on whatever the new information is. So thanks for checking this out. Let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for watching.